Hello again, my lovelies, and welcome back to what is not a Let's Play of Bloodborne. I maintain still that it is not a Let's Play. Yes, it is. I know. I'm aware. I can't help it. It's Bloodborne. Whenever I pick it up, whenever I start it, I've got to finish it. It's just the way it is. And welcome, my loves, to the Forbidden Woods. The, hideously polluted, dreary, dank area between Yarnum and Bergenworth, which is full of these things. Bloody parasitic snakes that have filled people's heads and bodies and turned them into these Ganados-like monsters. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Again, I love the way the positioning of the enemies implies narrative. Oh, no, don't go over there. I did that the first time I played, because some idiot had left a message there saying, oh, it's a secret if you go over the edge, you know. Which, you know, some of the people who play this game will want to do. Be very, very wary of following the messages, my loves. Very wary. This is a big transitional area, the Forbidden Woods. It's massive. It's very, very, very different from all the areas that have come before. Very dark, very sort of like fairy tale in its horror. There's, again, a kind of bizarre folk horror thing going on here. There's a sort of Little Red Riding Hood feeling about it. Oh, an executioner. Yeah, not many of them in the woods. Not many of them hanging around, but there we go. Looks like he's killed a vile blood as well. Or killed something. What's he murdered there? I don't know, but it gave us some twin bloodstone shards. You'll also find these things. Knots of these bizarre mutated snakes that are everywhere. Snakes are a big motif in these woods. They're parasitic and they are very, very peculiar. They seem to be all one creature. They're based, I believe, on like mating balls of snakes. You know, there are certain species of snakes that mate periodically, like once a year, and when they do, they swarm together and form giant mating balls. I think that's what these things are based on. But they're actually not. They seem to be all one creature. And look at these things, these strange growths that resemble the amygdala. You see these cacti things that look like amygdala. There's this visual storytelling all the way through where you've got to interpret the symbolism in any which way you feel comfortable doing. You know, there's a wonderful exercise with Bloodborne that a lot of people online do, where they try to piece together a kind of mythology for themselves from the recurrent symbolism. And it's brilliant. I think it's wonderful. It makes it interactive in a way beyond the way most video games are, beyond the purely technical, i.e. in the sense that you actually have to interact with it, you have to input commands to make things happen. This is interactivity on an entirely creative level, an academic level almost, where you have to interpret, you have to engage with the symbolism. It's a wonderful, wonderful way of telling story in video games. Very efficient, very elegant, and highly personal. It makes the story that much more engaging because no two people are going to come away from this game with quite the same mythology in their heads. It makes it personal, it makes it a creative exercise, and it is brilliant. It's sincerely brilliant. I mean, I sort of grew up in the days when, first of all, when story was almost entirely absent from video games, barring one or two notable exceptions, and then through the 32-bit era, where, not universally, but for the most part, story became very simplified because of technical limitations. It really was the case during the early PS1 era that video game narrative was separate from the game itself. So you had the game itself, then you had cutscenes that told you the narrative, then you had the game itself, then you had cutscenes, then you had the game itself, and that's the way it happened. The game was almost like a bridge between the narrative moments, for the most part. Not in 100% of cases, but for the most part. And it's kind of unsophisticated. It left for a kind of storytelling that was very linear, and it was basically the game would just give you the story through dialogue or through visuals. It would just tell you what is happening, and that is it. that has changed as video games have become more sophisticated in and of themselves on a technical level, but also as an art form, as what people want to do with them has developed. And that is the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro style games, the FromSoft RPGs if you like. They exemplify that to the nth degree. One of the reasons why they're so popular is because they're almost entirely new. No one's ever really made an RPG like these games before. And certainly not utilising the storytelling techniques that these games do. They borrow heavily from what happens in indie gaming. Obviously where studios or even the individuals who create the games don't have the budgets or the tools to create big flashy FMV sequences, or to have like pools of actors to read out the story or to provide dialogue or exposition. They have to find more sophisticated ways to tell their story. And that's what this does. It's what these games all do. And I would say Bloodborne does it more elegantly and more brilliantly than any of them. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Dark Souls too. But I think Bloodborne, A, has the better mythology, it has the more interesting and various mythology, but I also think it has the more ambiguous story. The thing with Dark Souls is, there is a sense of inevitability in Dark Souls, so everything tends towards a very particular conclusion, which is ultimately in the first two games it's the revolution of the grand cycle. So it's either the extinguishing of the great flame or the renewal of it and the beginning of a new cycle of mythology where the flame is either reborn, rekindled, or an age of darkness follows. Then in Dark Souls 3, it's the tending towards the end of those cycles. It's the breaking down of the machine. That's the inevitable end, regardless of what ending you ultimately pick. Bloodborne is a bit different. It's a bit different because the mythology isn't so inevitable, for one thing. There are various different ways in which the mythology of Bloodborne can potentially pan out. There are so many potential endings to this game, but also so many interpretations of those endings and what they actually mean. Because the game doesn't do you the disservice of sitting you down and saying, well, this is what's happening now. It doesn't work like that. You've got to interpret what's happening in each of the endings, and they're all very, very interesting. I mean, I love them all, I really do. I mean, my favourite is the ultimate one, the one we always go for, the one with where you get the 3/3 of the umbilical cord and you transcend the hunt. Rather than being reborn into the waking world, rather than becoming the new incumbent of the hunt, rather than taking Gehrman's place, which is one of the endings of the game, you become a great one. You become a creature of abstraction that's beyond humanity, beyond waking, beyond the dream even. You become your own godly entity, which is fantastic. I love that. I love it so much. It's such a strangely hopeful ending for a game like this. There's almost like a bizarre utopianism inherent. Born through ultimate horror. Before you can get there to that place of rebirth, you need to be broken down. You need to experience the worst things imaginable. The breaking down of self, oh fuck, look at these things. These are the big ones. The death of one's own mind and personality. An ultimate sense of destruction. Then you can be reborn. Then you can become something entirely other and operate on another state of being, where dreams and waking don't mean anything, where there's no distinction. That's what the Great Ones represent, it seems to me. A means of transcending existential limitations. You can become a creature of pure self-creation and self-authorship. There are no factors impinging upon you or determining the way you have to be. That seems to be what the Great Ones are, ultimately. And I kind of love it. I kind of love it. The fact that you become one at the end is incredible. Through murdering lots of others, of course. But then again, with the Great Ones in particular, it's hard to say whether you do kill them, or whether you just destroy their physical forms and they go on to another state of being. The Murgo, the Great One whose story this game really is, the infant Great One that's born to Queen Yharnam of the moon god Erden, who is worshipped throughout Yharnam as a god. That infant Great One is, when you free it from its physical constraints, it doesn't die, it moves on. It moves on to another state of being. In fact, by destroying its physical form and by destroying the nightmare that's holding it in place, you free it. You can hear, depending on how much insight you've got, you can hear Murgo's cries throughout the game. And Murgo is like calling hunters to itself to destroy it, to free it from the constraints that the nightmare of Mensis has put it under. It's really kind of cool. Oh, this, I remember this. This is really difficult. There's a cave here that's got 3 of these Ganados guys in it. Very tough. This is a tough fight. One of them, you can sort of handle one of them at a time. They're not so bad then. But when you've got 3 of them at once, no, that's difficult. That is very difficult. I also like the fact that these Ganados-style guys, they do occur in the area that most resembles the environments in Resident Evil 4. There's a sort of tone about this place. Oh, fuck! There's another one coming up behind me. There's an ethos. Oh, no! Oh, I got deaded. Oh, they're doing... Oh, I hate that attack where they wrap you up and sort of infect you. Not nice. I'll get right back there. I'm not going to make you walk through the entire woods again because that's a long, long trek, I'm telling you. Right, okay, let's try that one again. We did bloody well there, didn't we? Oh, no. We did not. We did not. Okay. Oh, that attack is a pain. The long-range one where they extrude snakes from themselves, that is a pain. It's almost unavoidable. It can kill you quite easily, so you've got to be very, very careful there. I mean, these are some of my favourite enemies in the game, actually. I think they're beautifully designed, very disturbing looking, and they're challenging. I mean, in order to kill them, you need to really learn how they work. You need to learn all of their little tells, all of their little animations, and they mark a sort of transition away from the more familiar enemies of Yharnam, you know, the more humanoid enemies of Yharnam. I kind of love that. It's the horror they imply as well. I mean, you get the impression these guys were once people of the forest, you know, they were maybe the wardens of the forest, like the rangers of this area, who became infested with the snakes. There's also the abiding impression that the snakes are somehow the products of the experiments of Byrgenwerth. There's something profane about it all, you know, something unnatural and unholy, which I love. Hello, you. Aha! I also love the fact that they're just standing staring at that corpse. Why are they doing that? Is there something... I don't know, it's almost like they're worshipping or something like that, or giving last rites. Maybe showing respect. Oh, we got a bloodstone chunk from that. That's very good. This is the area most people use when they first play the game. This is the area they use to level up because it's very, very good for it. If you're having difficulty and you need to level up your character, do some runs through the woods. Kill as many of the enemies as you can. Do some runs. Oh, he's got my soul. I was going to say soul echoes then. That's not what they are. They're blood echoes, aren't they? They're souls in Dark Souls, not in Bloodborne. But do a run through the woods, kill everything a couple of times through the woods, and you will get so many blood echoes, it's unbelievable. And you'll also get bloodstone chunks and bloodstone shards in order to upgrade your weapons. So it's a transitional area, this one. It leads to Byrgenwerth, but it also leads to that point where the game starts to get really, really, really hard. Now, can I jump? Can I make that? I don't know. Down there is a very different area. That ravine down there is very different from the rest of the woods. There's a very different type of enemy down there. It's a way of encountering that particular type of enemy a little earlier. Aha! This guy dropped out of the tree. He was in the branches. The gravestones everywhere are interesting as well. There's those amygdala plants again. I mean, what does that imply? Is that the influence, like the profane, corrupting influence of great ones like Amygdala, who we know is in Yharnam? Is it like the Amygdala are very particular because they're an interestingly active form of Great One. It seems that they are heavily involved in, for example, the rituals of Mensis. When we go back to Yardgul a little later, when the ritual is reaching its height, Hey, it's the kin! These are the enemies that are really strange. They are the byproducts of experiments that were performed using the blood of the Great Ones, a particular Great One, Ebrietas, and fusing that with human beings in order to create a kind of hybrid between Great Ones and human, so that the church, the healing church, can communicate with the Great Ones. That's what they were trying to do. So these guys were once human. They're grown. It's really weird. We will find the garden where they're born very soon, but they're grown from these like batches of plants. It's really strange, really bizarre. I love the fact they're here as well. I don't know quite what they're doing here in the Forbidden Woods. Maybe protecting the way to Bergenworth, or even exploring it, you know, trying to open the way. That's possible. That's very possible. Because although the Healing Church has declared Bergenworth basically forbidden, you're not supposed to go there, it wouldn't surprise me in the least if they're sending people there to try and learn its secrets. This is a very strange area with the fireflies. Very odd. It looks like there may have been a boss here or an encounter at one time, but just maybe wasn't programmed in. Oh, there's a pig down there. There are a few areas like that in the game where there was clearly going to be an encounter or a boss, but they just couldn't get it right on time, or couldn't get it programmed in. Some people have even found them. They've gone, if you look on YouTube and look at cut content from Bloodborne, some of those entities, those encounters still exist in the game's code, and some people have recreated them. They've actually gone in search of it, and they've recreated those encounters. It's quite impressive. Quite impressive. A lot of the bosses that occur in the Chalice dungeons are kind of like that. They are enemies that were maybe going to occur in other areas in the game, but which they just didn't have time to put there, or which didn't fit there maybe. These are the walls of Bergenworth. We're there pretty much. I'm going to open up some of the shortcuts before we do anything, because there's every chance if I don't, we'll die, and then I'll have to come all the way back, which would be annoying. There we go. So this is one of the big shortcuts. It takes you right back to the beginning of the Forbidden Woods. It's a very nice sort of linking back. Again, I mean, this is the kind of thing where you can see the historical roots of the game. You can see the lineage of the game. It's very Metroidvania, you know, where you're opening shortcuts and pathways through to older areas. That's kind of what they're all about. I've got loads of blood echoes as well. I need to invest those. I need to go and yeah, spend them and upgrade myself, because if I don't, I'm going to lose them. And believe me, it's easy to lose them in this area. Bloody easy to lose them here. I've done it many times. I don't even know like what the most blood echoes I've ever lost is, but it's a lot. It's a lot, believe me. Nothing makes a Bloodborne player tear their hair out more violently than losing a bumper crop of blood echoes, I can tell you. Especially if it's been a long session and they feel well earned, you know? I won't make you sit and watch me do all that, because I'm just going back to upgrade, so we'll cut back to the Forbidden Woods, I think. You don't have to sit and watch me like go to the doll and upgrade and all of that nonsense. I mean, my character's pretty powerful at this point, because he is a New Game Plus character, so he's been through the game once already. It doesn't make much difference, mine, because in New Game Plus, which is what we're playing now, it's hard mode. You know, the game is that much more difficult. It's not the case that you can do like a free lap of the game and you can go back through with all the powers and the upgrades that you've got. It wouldn't be that kind, you know? It just wouldn't be that kind. No, you go through a much harder version of the game, and when you play again, you get New Game Plus Plus, which is even harder. And I don't know how many it goes up, but the game keeps going. It keeps getting harder and nastier and more unpleasant. And your character just keeps upgrading and upgrading and upgrading. I don't know if there's a cap, whether you know, there's a point where you just can't upgrade anymore. I think there is. I think each characteristic has an upper limit that you can get to, and then you can't upgrade any further. But yeah, now what are we going to do? There's a few things we still need to do in the Forbidden Woods. We haven't explored the entire area yet, and at the end there's a boss. And those of you who have either watched Let's Plays of it or have played it yourself, you know which boss it is. They are bastards. These bosses, the boss of the Forbidden Woods, there's 3 of them, and they are evil. They are one of those points where a lot of people give it up, or they go in search of a companion to beat them with, because they are... Basically, they're a marker. After these guys, the game is going to ramp up by several degrees. So they hit you with a boss that's a kind of stumbling block. If you can't defeat them, you're not at high enough level to deal with the rest of the game, because they are tough. They are tough. I just love the way Byrgenwerth has become lost. It's semi-mythic at this point. A lot of people in Yharnam either don't know it exists or they think it's a fairy tale. It's a mythic place, Byrgenwerth. It was where blood healing was discovered, but also, oh you bastard, where it was denied as well. Like, obviously, we've seen the mantra of old Byrgenwerth, which was fear the old blood, yeah? They saw the dangers of the use of the blood, and they forbade it. Which is why Lawrence, one of the students, broke away to found his own organisation, which was the Healing Church. He broke away with a number of others who ultimately became the founders of not only the various different sub-churches and sects of the Healing Church, but also the Hunters. So you've got Lawrence and Ludwig, for example, both of whom became Hunters in and of themselves, and also were founders of the church. You've also got characters like Gehrman, for example, who knew them, who became the first Hunter, also one of the founders of the Healing Church. If you find... There is a way you can find Gehrman again in the Hunter's dream after he's disappeared. You know, he doesn't seem to be there at the moment, but he is. You can find him lying in the long grass, and when you get to him, he's having a nightmare. He is calling out to Lawrence and Ludwig and asking them, when are you gonna come and free me? When this wasn't how it was supposed to be. When are you going to come and free me from this terrible dream? Not understanding, of course, that they're both lost. Lawrence and Ludwig lost themselves a long time ago. They're actually lost to the Hunter's nightmare. So they went mad. Ultimately, these saintly figures, these prophets, these founders of the Healing Church, they went mad with the blood and became the most mutated, the most monstrous of all the beasts created from it. Ludwig in particular is one of the most horrific entities created from the use of blood ministration. He's when we meet him in the Hunter's Nightmare, believe me, he's a monster. He is one of the nastiest, most vile creatures in the whole game, and also one of the hardest bosses. He's a tough one. He's a real tough one. I've never beaten him on my own, but I'm going to give it a go this time. Like I have with all the other bosses, I don't want to do it with allies this time to make it different. I want to do it myself. Funnily enough, Bloodborne, I can do most of the bosses on my own. Dark Souls, not so much. Dark Souls, I struggle with, just because of the style of game. It's much more tactical, much more defensive. Dark Souls, it's a different style. If you come at Dark Souls like you do Bloodborne, or vice versa, it's not going to work. Bloodborne's much more aggressive, but also much more elegant, I find. It's less heavy. You've got to sort of duck and weave a bit more in Bloodborne. It's more like a dance, I find, than Dark Souls is. Dark Souls is hanging back, watching your enemy, and then taking what shots you can when you can. Hey, up, here we go, another one. Ah! You can, if you're quick, prevent that from happening. You can actually prevent them from exploding. You have to catch them in a particular combo of moves, and then it doesn't work for them. So if you keep staggering them, for example, before their heads have exploded, then the snakes never come out. I'd love an action figure of them. An action figure of them would be so much fun. You can't get Bloodborne action figures, but there aren't many of them. You can get some of the hunters, you can get some of the human figures, and I think that's it. You can't get any of the monsters, and it's like, well, Bloodborne's about the monsters, you know, it's all about the monsters. I mean, I love the hunters, they're elegant, they've got beautiful style, but I want the monsters, man. If you're going to make action figures, give me an action figure of, like, the Moon Presence, or of Rom, or of any of the wonderful beasties. Hey up. Well, this is set up in a very particular fashion, isn't it? So you fall on it from on high. So, oh yeah, let's go do it. Let's go do it. I wasn't gonna, but let's do it. This may be a mistake, but yay! God, that does damage to them. Oh shit. Aha! Oh shit, I'm caught. It's caught me in a combo. God damn it. Oh, all those souls. They're not lost. Oh, that's a great shot, actually, of the snakes. I'll just get right back there, don't worry. There we are. That was easy enough, wasn't it? The magic of editing. I, on the other hand, had to wade all the way through the bloody woods to get back here, and now I'm going to take my revenge. Oh, he's got my echoes, goddammit. Yeah! Revenge! There we go. Those are one of those enemies that are a lot scarier to look at than fight. Once you've got them worked out, they're actually not that hard. Oh, I can hear a piggly. There is a piggly here in the woods, and it's a weird one. Oh yeah, these guys that are further into the woods have slightly different attacks. He's going to summon snakes. Did you hear the whistle? Snakes. Oh no, they're around me. God damn it, I can't get out. Fuck. Oh no. Well, didn't that go well. It's rare when they summon the snakes that they appear around you like that. That's very unusual. They normally appear in a line around him. Oh well. Once again, another wander through the woods to get back. I'm going to get behind him and I'm going to visceral him. Take advantage. And then take advantage of the visceral's frames of invulnerability. That's how you do it, my loves. That's how you do it. It's the kind of thing you've got to think about when you play Bloodborne. Like, you've got certain frames of invulnerability in certain actions, and you can use them to your advantage in particular encounters. Oh, I'm slow poisoned. That sucks. Although technically I'm slow envenomed, it's not poison. Oh dear, how wearisome. There we go. That's the kind of thing that an internet critic would point out, isn't it? Okay. Blood echoes retrieved. Excellent. Oh god, we've got so many. We're doing well. We've got so many bloody blood echoes. There isn't much of the Forbidden Woods left, actually. We're nearly done. And then we'll go and fight the boss, who is awesome. I love the bosses to this area. They are pains, but they are part of what... They're not frustrating. They're part of what makes Bloodborne Bloodborne, insofar as I'm concerned. You've got to fight them a lot. As in, like, fight them, die a lot, and learn how to tackle them. It's a real learning experience, this encounter, and I really like it. It's one of my favourites, actually. The Shadows of Yharnam. Very cool enemies. They look like Nazgul. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what inspired them. Because this game is a framework of its inspirations. You've got the Ganados from Resident Evil 4 here. You've got the manga Berserk and anime is a huge influence on this game. To the point whereby there are even concepts and characters copied over. Lovecraftian mythology is massive, to the point whereby there are, well, the core concepts and metaphysics are Lovecraftian, you know? A lot of the monsters are Lovecraftian. There's even symbols from Lovecraft in this game, and rites and entities from Lovecraft. Lots and lots of influences and inspirations. I kind of love it. All merged and thrown together into this uber mythology that works. And it's also much more than the sum of its parts as well. Because although it borrows a lot from Lovecraft, it actually transcends Lovecraft's metaphysics in that it sees what Lovecraft didn't, which is the hopefulness of it. I mean, for Lovecraft, this whole interplay of alien gods and trans-dimensional beings and reality not being as stable or as certain as it appears to be was a cause for obscene despair, and that's all it is in Lovecraft. I mean, it's totally despairing. Whereas in this game it isn't. There's a reason why almost everyone is seeking out that transcendence in their own peculiar ways, or seeking some means of metaphysics, and that's because there's potential in it. They're not entirely deluded. I mean, okay, a lot of the time what they discover isn't what they hoped for. It's a different kind of transcendence. But that said, others do get what they want. They do transcend the hunt. Ooh, nice. They do transcend the hunt and they become something other. I mean, look at Rom. Vacuous Rom, who we will encounter later in Byrgenwerth. The implication with her is that she's a student of Byrgenwerth that did it. She managed to transcend her humanity through some bizarre mix of arcane rites and became a great one. Who else did that? Well, we do it. If you take a particular ending, we do it at the end of the game. Others are well on their way to doing it, like Mikolash, for example, in the Nightmare of Mensis later on. He's well on his way to doing something very similar. A lot of characters are. Even Gehrman has done something similar. I mean, for him it was a mistake. He made a bargain with a great one, which is the Moon Presence, which may in fact be Erden, we don't know. That's something that's left rather ambiguous. One of the final encounters with the game, if you perform particular actions, is the Moon Presence, which is the great one that holds the Hunter's Dream in place. It descends out of the moon, essentially, and you can either surrender to it or you can fight it or whatever, depending on what you've done in the game. But that is a great one that Gehrman made a bargain with, which is to create the Hunter's Nightmare, to suspend the hunt in this strange nowhere space between dreams and waking. For his own purposes. Unfortunately, it was a mistake. It didn't work out the way he thought it would, and as a result he hates it all now. He laments doing that. It's why you don't do it, unless of course you get a particular ending. There is an ending where you do it, and you become the new Gehrman, you become the new foci for the Hunter's Dream, which is actually the bad ending, I would say. That's certainly the worst of the endings for your Hunter, because it just means the same cycles are going to play out again and again and again. You become the guide for the other Hunters who pass through the Hunter's Dream. Actually, I've just remembered there's something we haven't done. So there is going to be a different story arc in this playthrough. We didn't go and kill Henrik. What you have to do at a particular point in the game is go back to the Tomb of Erden, where we encountered Gascoigne, and you'll find one of Gascoigne's compatriots, a guy called Henrik, fighting with Eileen the Crow. Henrik has gone mad, he's gone blood mad, and so it's Eileen's business to put him down. And if you help her, that triggers a different story arc with Eileen, and you'll encounter her later as an ally. Unfortunately, we haven't done that, so now, in this playthrough, we are going to encounter Eileen again, but in a very, very different vein. It's going to be interesting, actually, because I don't think I've done it in a playthrough yet, so that's going to be really interesting. Looking forward to that, actually. It also means that a particular encounter that was in the last playthroughs won't occur in this playthrough. If you go back after we've done Byrgenwerth and after the third phase of the moon has occurred, if you go back to the Great Cathedral where we fought Vicar Amelia, you'll encounter the Crow of Canehurst, who is actually a vampiric hunter from Canehurst, who is blood mad, and he's really difficult. One of the hardest encounters in the game. I've only ever killed him by tricking him, basically chincing the encounter. Okay. Oh god, I'm tense. I'm tense, my loves. This is where we encounter them. Here they are, the Shadows of Yharnam, the Nazgul, as I like to call them. These guys are pains. They're on a timer. Well, that went brilliantly, didn't it? These guys are on a timer, basically. You've got to kill them in a very particular fashion. If you don't, they mutate. They will mutate anyway, and they get more powerful and more dangerous. The way you've got to do it is focus on one of them and do everything in your power to take them down. But in the meantime, you've also got to be whittling down the others, because if you kill one of them, or bring one of them down to, I think it's 25% health, then they all mutate and they all become ultra hard. So you've got to be very careful. I like taking down this guy first. A lot of people go for the guy who chucks the fireballs at you, the other one, but I find he's very hard to get a bead on. I can't kill him quick enough because he keeps leaping about and getting away from you. Whereas these two, the other two, the one with the candle and the one with the sword, I can take these guys down in pretty short order by using visceral attacks. So yeah, it can, I mean, it's still bloody tricky. I mean, these guys are some of the harder bosses in the game, and on New Game Plus, they're even harder. You need a lot of practice with these guys, and I mean a lot of practice, because you've got to learn everything about them, and you've got to develop a very particular technique. Like when to lock on, when not to lock on, when to run away. You've got to get them separate, because if you try to fight them when they're all together, they will massacre you, like they did in my first encounter just a moment ago. Anyone playing this game, don't get frustrated with these guys. They're designed so that you have to keep playing them. You've got to die a lot and just learn how they work. And there is a little bit of luck as well, because it sometimes does depend on what mood they're in. Like how they happen to follow you, how they happen to manifest their attacks at any given point. So don't worry about it. I don't know what the background to these guys is. We're going to encounter these guys again as normal enemies later in the Nightmare of Mensis, and I don't know what that means. I don't know whether they were set here by Byrgenwerth or by the Healing Church to guard this place. That's possible. They may be guardians left here by the Healing Church who have become infected by the parasitic snakes, because we know the Healing Church doesn't want anyone getting to Byrgenwerth. But that may not necessarily be the case. The fact we encounter them again in Mensis is really interesting. I mean, are they even maybe agents of Mensis in that regard? I don't know. Who are trying to protect the secrets of Byrgenwerth for that college? I don't know. There's a lot of implied mythology behind these guys. A lot. And it's very hard to tell what the truth is. But I kind of love that. It's open. You can interpret it in any which way you like. There's a lot of this in this encounter as well, where you pause and you run to try and get an opening. You've got to, that's it. That's the trick with this fight. You've got to wait for your openings. If you don't, if you try to like brute force them or attack willy-nilly or without a plan, you're gonna die. It's as simple as that. They are a hard encounter, but they're lots of fun. I like this fight a lot. It's when you've learned how to do it, like all of the fights in Bloodborne, it leaves you with this real sense of accomplishment, as though you have learned something and accomplished it, and I kind of love that. It's one of the key reasons to play this game. As you can see, I'm trying to bring them all down to a level pegging when it comes to health. That's so when they mutate, and they will very soon, I can start picking them off. Because if you leave a couple of them with too high health, it's just too difficult. When they've mutated and they are much harder to avoid, it's tricky. It's bloody hard, I'm telling you. Because when the snakes come out, when they can attack you at range, all of them, that's when it's tricky. This is the easy phase, believe it or not. There's a lot of ducking and darting about. A lot of ducking and darting about. And as you can see, I'm being very careful. I'm only attacking them when I know I can. Because that's the way it is. That's the way you do this fight. I'm also trying to conserve my my blood vials, because believe me, we're going to need them. And the fact I can get help from doing viscerals as well helps a great deal. Here we go, they're mutating. Snakes coming out. They're all going to be much harder now. They're much more aggressive. They can all hit me at range now. Which is going to make... See? That attack is a nightmare. And they're going to mutate again. They're going to mutate one more time. And that makes them very tough indeed. They are now going to be much more on my ass as well. This is a tricky fight. A lot of people give up at this point because the fight is so hard. And I can sort of foresee why, you know, I can definitely see why. This fight is so difficult. It took me loads of tries to get it right. I mean, when I first played the game, I hit a stumbling block here. I could not get past these guys. And in the end, I think I just summoned another player to help me, you know. I took the easy way out because I wanted to see Bergenworth. Funnily enough, I would say the boss there protecting Rom, the vacuous spider, is way easier. I mean, Rom, in this playthrough, when I fought Rom, I beat her the first time. It's just like that. It's because Rom is a different type of encounter. Rom is... she can kill you very easily, like very easily indeed. But, as long as you know what you're doing with Rom, she's a piece of cake. All you need to do is take her slowly and methodically. One of them's going to die, which means the others are going to mutate very soon. The one with the sword is going to die. But there is... I mean, that is good. When one of them is gone, it makes the others so much easier. It's unbelievable. This guy with the candle can be a pain. If he catches you in his flame, he can kill you in one attack. That's it. Now this one's going to mutate. He can look. He can summon these giant snakes. This is tough. And this is tough. The giant snakes can kill you in one hit, so you've got to be really careful. And he's going to do it a lot to protect himself. You've got to be really careful. I mean, he's not going to take much. He's not going to take much to kill now. But he is well protected. Yeah, this is hard. But no, this is the one most people kill first. I leave him till last because he is much easier than the others. He's just not as aggressive, you know? I mean, that's all he can do. He's got a Tonitrus and he tries to hit you with it, but he's not very good with it. There we go, my loves! Yes! Oh, that's so satisfying, I can't tell you. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot. Hope you did too. When next we come back, Bergenworth and its secrets, my love. Until then, bye-bye!